Hi, I'm Deborah Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict. Hi, this is Deborah Hamilton, and today we are going to get the last installment of Writing to Influence with Colonel Carla Bass. My God, she is a force to reckon with. We're going to do the last three pieces of word sculpting, which includes who does what to whom, keep the focus and shut the gate, and then the final one, which I love, which is revise, edit, and proofread. These are three distinct functions. They're not the same. So now let's hear what Carla has to say. Hi, everyone. It's Deborah Hamilton, and I feel so blessed to be here again with Carla Bass. She has given us two fabulous podcasts that you shouldn't miss. This is the third and final podcast on how to write to influence. That's the title of her book. And those are the skills she's giving us, because everyone who works in the animal service industry needs to learn how to write to influence, to get their point across while also listening to someone else's point. So Carla, welcome back. And I hope you'll give us a little bit of an overview of the first two podcasts in case somebody hasn't listened to them yet, so they go back and listen to them. And then we'll dive in about 5 minutes to the third and final podcast.
Super. Thank you very much for the opportunity to connect with your audience. I am so grateful for chances to help others help themselves. So I'm a retired Air Force colonel, and for 45 years, I have written products that go to Congress and the White House, generals and ambassadors and so forth. So for 45 years, my career success was based on the fact that I could write concisely and with precision and get the desired results. When I was a lieutenant colonel, I took command of a squadron, 480 people in Hawaii, young, really talented men and women. But when I took command of the unit, it was the most losing unit in state quarterly and annual professional awards. And the impact of that was people who deserved to get promoted were missing out on those opportunities because their bosses could not write winning nomination packages. And despite of all of their fabulous work, they were losing to people whose packages were well written. So I developed the nucleus of what is now Write to Influence. I turned that into a little 20-page handbook and a 1-hour workshop, and I taught my guys how to write. And in scant time, we became the unit to beat. And then all of the other units asked if I could teach them also, which I obviously did, although there goes my competitive edge. But I ended up teaching this methodology for the next 15 years, wherever my Air Force assignments took me. And then when I retired, I've got two choices. I either get it out of my soul and into a book or flush it. Well, I couldn't flush it because so many people approached me through the years saying, Colonel Bass, if it hadn't been for, I wouldn't have been able to. And that was the genesis of Write to Influence. The principle is very simple. I explain it with two visuals. First of all, is imagine a white rectangle, just a blank white rectangle. What that represents is the principle that every writer is constrained by two things. You're constrained by the reader's time and attention. Okay, so knock, 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 time is fleeting. You're also constrained by the amount of available space. Sometimes government forms give you a demarcated area, or grant submissions would say summarize your program in 250 words, not 251. So this little white rectangle, now impose on that in big fat black block letters the word opportunity. And the moral there is the writer who best leverages the reader's time and the available space gains opportunity to make your point and present your case successfully. So that's the first visual, is that white rectangle with opportunity on it. The second visual, and this cuts to the heart of my Right to Influence methodology, is the inverted triangle. Okay, I can't do that with my fingers, but an inverted triangle. At the top of that is strategy. So the first part of Right to Influence, there's the baby. The first part of Right to Influence contains strategies. You have to strategize how you're going to present your message. And that was what our first podcast talked in depth about, our strategies. And when you get down to the bottom part of that inverted triangle, the second part of Right to Influence is what I call word sculpting tools, where you go through your draft sentence by sentence and you cut out the wasted words, the redundancy, the bureaucratic blather, and so forth. So you end up, you start off with maybe a 10-page draft, and by the time you sculpt away all that rubble, you've got 5 pages of hard hitting message, and you bought yourself 5 more spaces or pages to continue making your case. So that's the concept of strategizing the message and then the word sculpting. In our second broadcast, you and I discussed the first, I think it was 6 of the 10 word sculpting tools. We gave lots of examples and so forth. So today we'll finish off the last 4. And that should catch your audience up to where we are and what we're doing today.
Perfect. I'm so looking.
Did I do that in 5 minutes?
You did. You did it in less than 5 minutes. Thank you. No, and I'm so glad, because it really is important for us to have continuity between these 3, because they all are so important for people who are writing for grants for either animal shelters or animal rescues, or anything they're doing to fund their life goal or their life entrepreneurship. So before I waste any more time, let's dive into the last 4 of 10 in word sculpting tools.
The first one, I'm going to give you the visual. I'm not going to spoil it with the title. So for all of your listeners, I want you to imagine and tell me what these things have in common. First visual is a girl holding a balloon. Second visual is a football coach on the sideline communicating with the quarterback on the field when the game is in play. Third visual is a ground station controlling an orbiting satellite. Fourth image is a person walking 6 dogs. So the common factor to all of those things is the next word sculpting tool, which I call tethers. Each one of those images, you have a base. The base is the girl, the base is the coach, the base is the satellite the ground station, and the base is the person holding all those dogs. The tether would be the string on the balloon. It would be the digital link to communicate to the quarterback. It would be the link to the satellite, and it would be the leash to the dog. And then the other thing is the items that are being tethered. So in the first one, the item is the balloon. The second one, the item is the quarterback, because he's tethered to the coach. The third is the satellite, because it's tethered to the ground station. And the fourth are all those pooches, because they're tethered to the walker.
Right.
Now, let me give you an example. Yep. So let me give you 2 examples that demonstrate tethers in a sentence, And these are tethers that work. So if you can catch the rhythm of a correctly tethered thought, then I'll show you one that's broken, and I think the audience will be able to understand that. And once you understand a broken one, then you can find it so very easily and fix it. And I'm going to read these. I have to read this stuff. Okay, first good tether is they modified, expanded, and fortified the storage facility. In this example, the objects are modified, expanded, and fortified, and the base is the storage facility. And the way you check your tethers is can you modify a storage facility? Yep.
Yep.
Can you expand a storage facility? Yep. Can you fortify a storage facility? Yes.
Yep.
So all three of those tethers are solid. Okay, next example, again, of a working tether is the teacher praised the students for their discovery of and response to the fire. In this instance, the base is the fire. The object is the discovery of and response to.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, now here is one that's broken. We must review key areas such as production, maintenance, and which services can be outsourced.
Ooh, that hurts your ears.
Okay, so if you read, and this is another point, read your writing out loud. If you read things out loud, literally aloud, you'll hear these yourself. So it's, we must review key areas such as, and the way you fix it, such as production and maintenance, and determine which services can be outsourced.
Yep, that works.
Should I read that? Say that again for your audience?
I think, yeah, let's repeat it again
Okay,
for the audience, because repeat the bad one and then do the correct one second, because
the correction
it really resonated with me, but I want to hear it again, I think.
Okay, yep. And that tethers, this is a hard one to explain because they are kind of complicated. We must, the broken one, we must review key areas such as production, comma, maintenance, comma, and which services can be outsourced. So the base on this is such as, key areas such as, we must review key areas such as production, that works. Key areas such as maintenance, that works. Key areas and which services can be outsourced. That tether broke.
Yep.
Key areas and which services. Okay, so the way you fix it is we must review key areas such as production and maintenance and determine which services can be outsourced. Now here's one more broken one.
Oh, good. I was going to say, let's see if we can do another broken one, because it just seemed to me, which was really wonderful, is that it was just the tweaking of one word, and determine which helped tether that thought to that sentence.
Yep. And it's often a simple fix, either add in an and or an or a verb. But the key is recognizing the broken tether, and then they're easy to fix. So the third broken example is, should I use a Word document, a spreadsheet, or call an expert? The base is use. Should I use a Word document? That works.
Yep.
Should I use a spreadsheet? That works. Or should I use or call an expert?
So let me see if I can fix it. So I would say it would be Word doc, spreadsheet, or expert.
That's one way to fix it. Yeah, and that works. That would work. Should I use a Word document, a spreadsheet, or an expert? And that works. So use a document, use a spreadsheet, or use an expert. Another way to fix it is, should I use a Word document or spreadsheet, or perhaps call an expert?
Right. Then that gives you the call the expert piece, which corrects it even more. But I love it. This is so good.
So, and those are some of the ideas I came up with. I've got one. Oh no, I've got one more for you. This is horrendous because it has horse and cart. So
This is probably one of the ones I've used before.
This one also demonstrates the horse and cart word sculpting tool from our session number 2.
Yep.
And it also illustrates the strategy of talk about the what, not the how, which is from our first
Yep.
episode. So here we go. We will modernize and optimize production, distribution, and collaboration with our partners to improve our business. So the first thing that caught me on that is how do you modernize and optimize collaboration? How do you modernize collaboration? So right off the bat, the sentence is broken.
Makes no sense.
So very often people don't think about the nouns that they're appending to the verbs or the verbs that they're appending to the nouns. So I'm going to read it one more time. We will modernize and optimize production, distribution, and collaboration. Can't do that.
No.
In order to improve our business. Now, the horse and the cart, the what and the how, the whole purpose of this sentence is to tell the reader that we are going to improve our business. That's the what.
Right.
That's the important part. That's the heart of the sentence. And then you get to the how. How are you going to do it? Now we fix the sentence. So here it is. We will improve our business by modernizing, that's the base, by modernizing production and distribution and collaborating more often with our business partners.
Makes sense.
So I've got modernizing production and distribution, and then I separated off the collaboration from that tether. So it's no longer tethered to modernizing.
Right.
So we will improve our business by modernizing production and distribution and collaborating more often with our business partners. That's how you unravel that. But that was such a good example of horse and cart, the strategy of the what, the how instead of the what, and mismatched verbs and broken tethers.
I love that because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, and it just puts everything in its rightful place so that who's ever reading it understands what you're trying to transmit to them. So this is wonderful.
Yep. So again, to all of your listeners, read out loud what you have written, and you will recognize that you can't modernize collaboration. It just we get so caught up in bureaucratic blather, we don't go back to look at what it is that we've written.
That's right. Those extra words
and
can get us
they can. Okay, so that's a great segue into the next word sculpting tool, number 8, avoid gibberish. It's confusing. And what I just read to you was another example of that was gibberish too. Okay. Here's the messed up one. Let me explain gibberish. Gibberish is usually a confluence of several screwed up words or several items. I'm tired. Several issues that could have been fixed if you'd gone through the word sculpting tool. So something becomes gibberish if you've got the useless words, the redundancies, when you put a confluence of bad writing in one sentence, that's what kind of constitutes gibberish. And the way you get out of it is you simply ask yourself, who does what to whom? And you know what? I just messed up. It's who does what to whom. This is number 8, not gibberish. Who does what to whom? That was my bad. Who does what to whom? Okay, here we go. We will internally seek to identify whether there are better measures to be utilized in the future that reflect analysis-driven evaluations of our products.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to read that one more time. So this is
please.
Who does what to whom? You unravel it by who does what, who's doing what to whom. We will internally seek to identify whether there are better measures to be utilized in the future that reflect analysis-driven evaluations of our products. Okay, things that are wrong with this. First of all is internally seek. You can fix that. Whether there are. So now that's the useless words. Try your very best to not say there is, there are. To be utilized, I hate the word utilized, to be used, but that's passive voice, and passive is not good. That's the hog space, one of the hog space techniques.
Right.
In the future, those words are redundant, because if it's going to be used, that by definition is in the future. So here's how we took all that and fixed it. We will seek better internal analytic measures to evaluate our products.
Oh my God. It's like night and day.
Well, completely. And I didn't bother to count the number of words and spaces, but I've reduced it by at least half.
Well, yeah, it's like 14
So
to
who is
7.
doing what? Yep. So we will seek. Who is doing what? We will seek. Okay. What will we seek? Better internal analytic measures. Why? To evaluate our products. So you just like this bowl of spaghetti noodles, you just separate it into little bite-sized pieces, and who is doing what to whom. That's the concept of gibberish.
Great. So that was number 8, gibberish, or that was number 8, who does what to whom?
I keep doing that. I think because this crappy writing is gibberish to me. It's who does what to whom. Number 8 is who does what
To whom. And if
I
you
apologize to the readers.
No. So if you can identify who does what to whom, then you won't be writing in gibberish. If you throw that out the window, then it will be written in gibberish.
Exactly. So number 8 is who does what to whom. And in my book, I've got this little picture of a befuddled person with balloons over his head. Who, what, when, where. Okay. So just sort it out and get rid of all the other unnecessary words. So that was number 8. Number 9. This is one of my favorite ones to describe. Keep the focus, shut the gate. So let me make you all hypothetical tour guides. So you are a tour guide in a botanical garden, and you've got a group of, say, 30 people. Your pager just went off. It's your boss reminding you that the garden closes in 5 minutes, and your mission is to get all of your group to the exit. No fair anybody take a diversionary wander down a path to see the azaleas or the tulips. You have to get them all in a group from point A to point B. So essentially, you are closing the gates, figuratively, to all of those little paths that they might want to independently wander down. Now, how does this apply to writing? There are several ways that an author can inadvertently open up those little pathways, and if the reader wanders down the pathway, they have just departed from your message. You've just lost the reader. They are gone, and you may not be able to recapture that reader to have that person continue on the path to the conclusion that you're wanting to explain to them. So here are some ways that you can make that mistake. One, and I'll give some examples, but one is if your story wanders, if you accidentally start telling the wrong story. So here's an example. I sat in on a briefing, this woman, I forget the problem that she was trying to solve for the government, but it was a significant problem. And it was a 45-minute briefing that was just pure agony for the audience, because she got so emotionally wrapped up in her year-long journey trying to solve this problem and save lots of money. Instead of the briefing talking about here's the problem, here's the solution, about 90% of it said, and I tried this, and I tried this, and I tried this, and I tried this. She spent most of her briefing telling the audience things that the audience didn't need to know. No, because she was so caught up. She was a good person. She was emotionally involved. She did not outline her story, and she herself derailed the briefing and completely shot the presentation in the foot. So the first thing is, make sure your story doesn't wander. Outline it, and that will help you make sure that you don't accidentally do that to yourself. A second example of ways to leave those blasted gates open is if you use poorly defined terms. Don't assume that your audience understands all of the technical terms or bureaucratic or AKC related terminologies. Make sure that you know Yep. Make sure that you know your audience, which is one of the key strategies. Your audience and you are using the same language. Don't presume that they understand exactly the terms that you're using, because they'll go, huh? And you lose them. A third one is partially told stories. You see this often in resumes, where you claim an action, but you never say what happened as a result. Or if and I don't know the AKC or the dog world so much, but if you rescue I don't know 30 dogs, you leave it there, but you don't say, and oh, by the way, we were able to find homes for every one of them. So partially told stories where the reader says, okay, so like what happened? That's
Yeah.
a third garden gate that they're going to go wandering down. A fourth garden gate are errors or inconsistencies, where all of a sudden the audience, whether it's observing a slide presentation or reading your document, they start counting the number of mistakes that you make, because your document is so rife with mistakes or inconsistencies that they get bored with what you're trying to say, and they're so distracted by the errors they start counting those instead of listening to what you're saying. An example of that is a resume that I saw for someone who was trying to get hired. He was with the Department of Transportation, and within a 5-page resume, he had I don't know 6 or 8 different ways of saying Department of Transportation, DOT, Department of Trans. He was never consistent with the acronym for Department of Transportation, and that's just very, very distracting to the audience.
Right. Say it out and then repeat it the way you want to repeat it, either totally written out, or if you want to shorten it to DOT, just make sure you put that up front first as being the reference you're going to use.
And then use DOT all the time. Yeah, the same thing you'll see like fiscal year in one document. You'll see FY 2023 with no space, FY space 2023, FY 23. So again, it's just pay attention to those details and the consistency. Ineffective statistics. I made a 30% reduction in my budget this year, or I had to take a 30% reduction, or I improved my production by 10%. Okay, so does that mean you produced 500 more widgets, or you normally produce only 10 widgets, so you produce 2 more widgets? You have to be able, if you're going to use statistics, make sure that the audience understands the whole context for that. One example was there was an error-free rate of 1.5%. A communications center had an error-free rate of 1.5%. Well, okay, you've just got a contradiction in terms there of error-free and 1.5%.
Right.
Again, anything
for that 1.5%.
inadvertently prompts the reader to say,
What?
What?
Yeah, because I'm error free except for that
this is
1.5%.
Yep. So, and this next one, I love this one. I found this in a resume bullet. Again, it was someone who was looking to get hired. And this is a direct quote. It says, position required attention to detail and the ability to put aside ego to accomplish mundane yet critical tasks.
Oh my God.
Who on earth
wants a job that's mundane?
To put aside ego. Yeah, to put aside egos. I mean, so that's a great example of it. It stops the reader cold in the tracks. And I've been using this example for about 5 years because it's just so friggin' brilliant.
I love it. I love that. I love that because in a lot of vet offices and a lot of things that breeders write, they start with, we don't put up with this. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, so nobody's going to read any further because you've turned them off.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now here's one more. This is another one, and this is very subtle. So again, I keep hitting this is read what you write out loud and listen to it from the reader's perspective, not what you think you've just written. So here we go. We must improve production and distribution policies. The point here is that can be interpreted 2 ways. Are we improving policies that pertain to both production and distribution? In other words, production policies and distribution policies? Or are we trying to improve production and distribution policies? So where does the word policies hook to? Does it hook to both distribution and production? Or is production a completely separate issue that we have to solve? And then we also have to fix our distribution policies. So when you write something that can be interpreted two ways, it's incumbent upon you not to confuse the audience and to make sure that they understand what you're trying to say. Oh, I lost you.
Nope, this is so important for the readers and the listeners of this podcast, because knowing what you have given us as tools to look for in our writing will make our endeavor to communicate so much clearer. Thank you, Carla. It's fabulous.
A lot of this confusion results from noun upon noun upon noun. And that is one of the four categories of gibberish. The real gibberish word sculpting tool is when you have so many nouns that are used as adjectives. Another example is they conducted a compound raid. Okay, so does compound in that instance, is that meaning double, compound raid? Or
Right.
is it being used as a noun, a raid on a compound?
On a compound, right. That's immediately went through my mind.
Yep.
They did it twice, or they did it to a place.
Yep. So as you're writing, go through sentence by sentence and make sure that you don't accidentally confuse the reader.
So now we're going
So
to
that's the keep the focus, shut the gates.
keep the focus, shut the gates, and that's 9. So now we have the best one, 10, which I'm sure you saved the best one for last.
No, they're all good. They're all good. Okay, the key point behind number 10, revise, edit, and proofread. And many people don't understand that those are 3 distinct functions. Those are not synonyms. They're 3 distinct functions. So revising is where you've got your draft and you've got your outline. And from the perspective of strategizing the story, sometimes you need to move paragraphs around. Sometimes you need to move sentences around, revising. Make sure you've got a good topic sentence and that all the sentences in that particular paragraph tether to that topic sentence, the umbrella sentence. So revising is basically moving the building blocks to get the structure correct. Editing is where you work on the syntax and the wording. You make sure that you haven't used the same word over and over and over again. Bob Warrington is a dear friend who was my sanity check for both editions of Right to Influence. And oh my God, he was he was painful. He was painful, but I couldn't have produced these things without him. He said, Carla, do you have any idea how often you use the word powerful writing? He said, if I find that one more time in the manuscript, I'm just, I'm going to come hit you. So when you're writing that initial draft, go through it and make sure that you haven't used the same word over and over and over again, or 2 words that are very similar in the same sentence. All of that is part of the editing process. Vary the syntax so that the product is that, I love this word, is mellifluous. If you read it out loud, it's pleasant to read. Okay, mellifluous.
I love that word.
Euphonic is another synonym for that. Yep. Make sure that the tethers work. All of that is the editing process. And then, of course, everyone knows what proofreading is. So the moral there is, don't trust the automatic proofreaders. Do it yourself. Now, maybe with AI, perhaps, but it recognizes real words, but it won't recognize it if it's in the wrong context. So when you're talking about the threats that America faces right now, but if you write the treats that America faces right now, it's going to slip by. It's not going to catch it.
It's spelled correctly.
So sentence by exactly. So sentence by sentence. Some people say they want to make sure that the punctuation they have included is correct, and but but also look for the punctuation that you didn't include, because missing punctuation marks are as important as the punctuation marks that you put in that you get right, if that makes sense.
Well, for me, I always put
Um,
in too many punctuation marks, and I have to go back, and I love commas and capital letters, so I always have to go back and fix that.
Okay, so commas and both of those are kind of bugaboos with me. People are overindulgent with capital letters. So, for example, just because you're going to put if you're going to use an acronym, people automatically assume that the words that precede that acronym in parentheses have to be capitalized. That's wrong. So, example, improved explosive device, unmanned aerial vehicle. Those are not proper nouns. They are things like a cat, a dog, and a book. So just because you're going to use a term and then put it in a parentheses as an acronym, unless it's a proper noun, don't capitalize it. So that's the bit on capitalization. Now, commas, I should have had something handy for you in commas. I almost did that. Commas are so easy if you understand them. So where people get confused is essential and non-essential information. If what you're including and you're wanting to throw commas in there is unessential information, in other words, if you can cut it and it won't hurt the sense of the sentence, then it's non-essential and you bracket it. Now try this.
Right. Yep.
If the information is not important, comma, therefore, comma, you add the period, the commas. So when you say therefore, like I just did, or however, those are usually incidental words that by themselves are pauses. You put the break, the commas, you bracket those unnecessary words in commas. If what you're wanting to bracket is essential to the thought, don't bracket it off.
Yeah. I often do that. I often read the first part of a sentence, and then I know the extra words are sort of maybe clarifying or expanding or something else that add to the first thought. I'm trying to think of one that I had yesterday. I'm going to take the long way or whatever my mother to the supermarket. The main thought is I'm taking my mother to the supermarket, but in parentheses you could go, take my mother in the car, blah blah blah, but my mother to the supermarket's the thought. That's not a good example, and I apologize, but I'm trying to think of the one I had yesterday, because what I do is I just sort of think about it and say, can those be taken out of the sentence, like you said, and it won't change the meaning of the sentence. Yeah. So then if you want to put a comma at the beginning and at the end, great.
Well, and I'm making this just on the fly. The blue house on the other side of the street recently sold.
Right.
If there's only one blue house over there, then on the other side of the street is not it's non-essential information. So the blue house, comma, on the other side of the street, comma, recently sold.
Yeah, you do a much better
If,
job.
however, if there's a bunch of blue houses, though, and you're needing to target, you're saying, hey, dude, it's the one on the other side of the street, then that's essential information and it should not be bracketed off. The blue house on the other side of the street recently sold. So once you understand, is it essential or is it not essential, then everything just kind of falls into place for that category.
Carla, this has been such great information, and I don't know what we would have done without your kindness and your generosity to give us 3 podcasts so that people who are working in the animal world can put together different articles for people to read, grants for them to get maybe some money, or just their resumes and identifying their mission and their vision in a way that will give them the opportunity to have people understand what they're doing or maybe fund what they're doing. So this has been invaluable.
Super. Well, as you know, I give the workshops and webinars. I've got one that's tailored specifically for how to write grants. I take all of these strategies and the word sculpting tools, and I explain here's how you write winning grant submissions. You might remind your listeners about the twice monthly newsletter that I send out. I spent so much time on these 600-word articles because I value the reader's time. So if they want that, they can just email me, carla@writetoinfluence.net, or go to writetoinfluence.net, and on the top left corner, there's a click here to get the newsletter. There's 3 free ebooks there on the webpage: Write a Winning Grant, Right to Win Input to Performance Review, and Right to Win a Resume. So, I'm just delighted to have had the opportunity that you offered to contact or connect with your audience.
Well, you've been so generous, and I want everyone, I mean, the links will be in the notes of the show, but are there any workshops coming up that you can share with us, or any speaking engagements you are going to do in 2024?
No, not yet. So if anybody out there wants to bring me on board, holler.
I think they should.
Have workshop will
Absolutely.
travel.
I know, I think they should. And quite frankly, I'm thrilled you're here, and I am going to keep in touch with you and see if we can do something together so that I can get your word out even more, Carla, because this has been a blessing for me. It's
Thank you.
really worked on my skills, both reading your book that was signed, so I'm very lucky, and also having the ability to listen to you here on Why Do Pets Matter? Because if we can write to influence, then pets are really going to matter. So until next time, thank you, Carla, and we will be talking later on and seeing if Carla will come back next year with some more wonderful tips. The Why Do Pets Matter podcast drops every Thursday and can be found on whichever platform you find your podcast. Subscribe now, invite your friends, and I cannot wait to have you join me in these conversations.